one of the festivals that is most attractive to people each year is the Harvest Festival. It can sometimes be seen as almost a little bit of fluff or icing on the cake, but actually the Harvest Festival touches some of the very central themes of Christian faith and Christian liturgy. And to discuss this festival with me is Dr. Alison Milbank. Alison, take us through the significance of the Harvest Festival.
The Harvest Festival as we know it is of recent date. Harvests are not. Originally, the harvest home was the time when the last sheaf had been gathered and the farmers held a feast in a barn in which everybody, high and low in the area, would eat together. And that was an incredibly important ceremony, and you brought home the last sheaf, all decorated with ribbons, and sometimes even in the form of an image was brought home, and that meant that the women and children could go and glean in the fields, and that was economically very important. But everybody celebrated together before going back to work. At some time, this became a festival in the church. Now, people sometimes say it only goes back to Hawker of the parish of Morwenstow in the West Country in 1843, when he revived it as a celebration of giving thanks in the church. The rest, as they say, is history, because it's one of the most popular and sometimes not even very official feasts of the church. But traditionally it's one where many, many more people will come and is of great importance. But I think it highly unlikely that it began with Hawker. I think it goes much further back. But obviously Lammas was the primary harvest festival where you gave thanks. But this was giving thanks that the harvest was actually safely in the barns and no more harm could come to it. And so it's a very important feast.
And of course, we tend to think of Harvest Festival as, you know, someone presents tins of beans and there's a big hamper of ready prepared food that you buy in a supermarket. And I'm not trying to decry that, because that actually is touching the fundamental reality that we depend on food. But of course, that sense of having the harvest in the barn is actually was a human, a psychological moment for the community that we can barely grasp today.
No, because some years it would not be the case. And the Book of Common Prayer is full of prayers for that eventuality. When harvests fail, when everything goes wrong. It's really disastrous. But I think there is a revival of a more traditional harvest festival in many places. Many more people are growing their own food. Allotments have become wildly popular in all cities, and very often even kind of guerrilla food movements where people go around sort of growing food in little odd spaces of cities, people growing communal orchards, communal growing things around, have had their own harvest festivals. So people are beginning to see again the importance of growing food together and offering it.
And I see in the way you're telling me that you're actually saying that this is a way of getting in touch with an aspect of humanity, that in a sense we're alienated from our humanity when we don't realize how we depend on food, on the environment, on working together, and indeed ultimately on the goodness of God.
And that's why this is so important, that it stresses two things. On the one hand, it stresses the fact that we are creatures, and we have forgotten to be creatures. We think that we're in charge of the world. Well, global warming and the situation environment that we're in has taught people a different lesson, that we are creatures. We're vulnerable, and we are only safe together if we work together. But we haven't seen that in all aspects of our lives, but at least liturgically we're beginning to see that. And it's very interesting how popular in schools, for example, Harvest Festival is. People need someone to thank. There is a human need for gratitude a human need to say we are not our own selves. We depend on the earth, on water, on God, on that which is beyond. But it also is a feast of human creativity as well. And those two things go together. You're more creative if you realise you are a creature.
There's another aspect to the Harvest Festival, and that is that we often almost commercialise and consumerise religion. It's what religion does for me, and does religion touch me? But actually, the Harvest Festival is actually a time of giving. There's collections of food for the needy, for the poor, for the third world, and it actually emphasises the fact that religion is not only communal, but religion must be outward and must be social and must be caring.
And must link people to production. So to be grateful to those who have produced things for you, and to actually unpick those lost chains of connection between the people who grow things, the people who sell things. I mean, obviously that's important in the fair trade movement, but that is a very small step. And it's too easy to think that you've solved everything by fair trade. But Harvest Festival is an opportunity for revealing the chains of connection between producers and consumers, and stopping people from thinking of themselves as consumers.
Alison, thank you for talking to us about the Harvest Festival and for drawing out the larger theological vision that stands behind it. Thank you.